times of ever-expanding data. And where there's data, there's analytics on top of it. Now, anybody who has worked with data ever or aspires to needs to have a hands-on experience with a few tools. One such tool is the Power BI desktop. And I guess that is why you all are here, because you've either heard or read about this new end analytics tool by Microsoft, and well, you've come to the right place. Hi all, I welcome you to this session on Power BI dashboard, and the following tutorial will help you with all you need to get started with making your own Power BI dashboards. Now, if you want to understand a little more about Power BI and Power BI desktop, we already have a beginner's video on it, the link to which I'll leave in the description box below. This installment is more of a technical deep dive. Here, I'm going to show you one of the more known capabilities of Power BI, and that is building a desktop. So basically, we are going to build this one-tab report, which is going to give you a complete financial visibility over some financial data. But before we begin, let's look at our agenda for today. So we're going to start out by telling you a little bit about Power BI, a little introduction, if you may. Then we are going to head straight to our demo machine and start creating a dashboard. We're going to do some visualizations, some drill downs, and then we're going to publish it using the Power BI service, followed by which we are going to learn how to use row-level security in Power BI. And then we're going to conclude with a success story on Aston Martin. So if you are new to Power BI, don't worry. There are going to be a lot of basics introduced in this session, along with some advanced concepts for experienced users. So there's basically something for everybody. Also, kindly take up this time to go ahead and subscribe to us, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to never miss an update from the Edureka YouTube channel. Also, if you want to learn more about this Microsoft tool, you can check out our Power BI training course, the link to which I'll leave in the description box below. So without much ado, let's get started. So what exactly is Power BI? Basically, Power BI is a cloud-based business intelligence service by Microsoft, and it helps provide non-technical business users with tools for aggregation, analysis, data sharing, and visualization. So it's a business intelligence platform that turns your data into insights that drive action for your business. From collection to collaboration, Power BI is a very secure, flexible, end-to-end analytics platform for your entire data. It is designed for you as an individual or a learner, as well as scaled up for an enterprise level. With Power BI, you can prepare your data, analyze it, and share it with the world. It allows you to ingest, transform, integrate, and enrich your data, connecting to all of your data sources. Power BI simplifies data evaluation and sharing with scalable dashboards, interactive reports, embedded visuals, and many more. With that, let's move on and start building our new dashboard from scratch. For that, I'm going to go on to my Power BI desktop. And here, as you see, this is a new file, and we are going to see a blank canvas here. I'd like to encourage any of you that already has Power BI desktop to go ahead and try this example out. You can follow along with me. If not, you can just take your time and know as you watch as I go through the steps, and I'm going to provide the finished product to you in the description box below again. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you open your Power BI desktop is that you want to connect to your data. So there's a Get Data button over here. It's a very easy way to do. And then we can see all the various different connectors that you can use to connect your data sources. If I click on More, once it loads, you can see files, databases, Power Platforms, Azure Platforms, online services, other connectors. You basically have everything that you can possibly hope to connect to within Power BI. So for our purposes, we are going to select an Excel file and connect. I have this file called Financial Sample that I'm also going to provide to you as well. So we're going to click on Open. So it automatically loads that data into Power BI. Kindly be patient, this is going to take some time. So here you can see the preview of your data. Yes. You have your segments, your countries, product, discounts, units, gross sales, everything. So here you have two options in the bottom. You can either click on load, where it'll directly load this financials data set into your data model, or you can click on transform data. Here we can edit and further transform this data in case we need to. So I'm going to click on transform data, and it's going to open something known as a Power Query editor. As you can see in front of you, this is the Power Query editor. Now, one of the reasons Power BI is so powerful is because it has Power Query as its backend data transformation system. If you have used Excel in the past, you must have definitely used Power Query to a deeper extent, in fact. This feature basically helps you make those transformations, make those changes to your data in case it's messy. Basically, it helps you transform your data into a more usable form of data, a data out of which you can form a report, basically. So I would like to draw your attention to this pane on the right called Applied Steps. Power Query automatically creates these steps that it's going to go through in order to connect to your data, bring it in, and clean it up. So you see the first step is called source. Basically, it's connecting to the source, the file based on the file path that I had specified. Next is navigation. It's connecting to your headers based on the headers in your data. And finally, it's automatically detecting the column of the data type of that column. So you can see all of these different columns, which are text values. And if I go a little bit towards the right, you can see all the columns which have any sort of numerical values in it, like sale price, manufacturing price, discounts. They are either in integer form or decimal form. And here your date, you can see this little calendar icon next to it. Your date is automatically converted into a date format. Now, all of this is already done for us. All we have to do is click on close and apply. And this data will get automatically imported into our model. And it'll allow us to start building these visualizations. If we give Power Query a little time to walk through those steps, and then we can see our table, our data already has been loaded on the right here. We can see all of these columns that were available to us in that data source. And now we can just start building our report. So basically what I'm planning to do is throw in a few visuals. We can do your basic bar charts. We can maybe put in a map, use a gauge, use a line chart, along with some time intelligence functions, some conditional formatting to actually get the proper effect of a Power BI dashboard. So with that, let's go ahead and start building our visualizations. So the first thing I'm going to throw in is a normal vertical bar chart. So there are a bunch of built-in visualizations in Power BI that is provided to you. One of them is horizontal and one of them is vertical. So I'm going to click on that. So this brings the basic visualization here in gray onto the canvas. So next, what we have to do is drag and drop the fields we want into these wells that you see right here. So I'm going to get country. So we want our retailer country in the axis, and our sales, or maybe our gross sales, which is a numeric field, we can get it on the value. Now this makes a nice bar chart for us, nothing too special there. But one thing we've got to admit, it's pretty easy to make with just a couple of clicks. Next, let's put in a map. Here in the visualization, you see a couple of maps here. We have a fill map, we have a shape map, and we have something here at the bottom called as the ArcGIS map, which is very customizable. So I am going to be using, let's say, the normal shape map. This basically allows you to visualize different kinds of maps. I'm just going to resize it to fit into our dashboard. Let me bring this up here. So we're going to throw in our data into this map. So our location is going to be our country field. And let's see, let the legend be based on gross sales. Okay, I don't quite like this map, so I'm going to change it to a filled map. Yeah, that looks better. That looks way better in my opinion. So I want to take this time to introduce you to these panes right here. So the first one, called fields, allows us to specify what data fields should be tied to what visualization. Basically, what normal visuals may have an axis, maybe a legend and a value, similar to how you built the bar chart. The second tab is all of your formatting features. You can change the color of things, you can change the font size or the font itself. You can change the grid lines, transparency, pretty much anything you need at this point. I think I'm pretty happy with the map, but one thing I'd like to check, or rather enforce, if I click on the map. So as you can see, this feature called the auto zoom is on. So basically, if I click on a country, say Canada, on the map, it auto zooms to Canada. This is the cross highlighting. This is how cross highlighting works in Power BI. And this auto zoom is a pretty fun feature, in my opinion. It's a pretty cool functionality there. So you can already see how Power BI is creating these powerful connections between these visuals. So next we're going to create a gauge. So we're going to create this gauge. Basically what we're trying to do is we are going to try and create a graph which is going to show your values as you get closer to the goal. So I'm going to select a gauge and it's right here. Temporarily, I'm just going to throw in our revenue into the gauge. If we select the gauge, here you can see we have a lot of fields for the gauge. We have value, minimum value, maximum value, target value, tooltips. So if I throw gross sales into value, you're going to see by default the gauge is filled halfway through. In real world, if I might say, the maximum value is usually the previous year's annual gross sales. We're going to want to exceed how we did for the last annum. So if we set last year's revenue as the goal, then we will be a nice goal to be able to visualize in this gauge. So next, we are going to put on another bar chart. We want a little bar chart showing basically our current period versus the last year's period. This is also to be able to drill down so that we can look at it at a quarter basis and look at it down a month level as well. So if we drilled into a quarter, we should be able to see a selected year's value versus the last year's value. It's so very dynamic in Power BI. So we're going to set up a measure to calculate dynamically. Measures are very important within the table because you calculate based on filters that are applied to the visual. So if you think about calculation and as you throw it in different visuals, it's going to calculate very differently based on different filters that the visual imposes. For example, if you were to throw into a calculation into a bar chart on the left, it's going to calculate differently for each of the specific items on the axis. It's going to calculate differently for United States of America, for Canada, for France, for Germany, for Mexico. Alternatively, if you throw it into a visual different from this, where it's based off of the x-axis, it's going to calculate based on the date specified for that value. So let's go ahead and start building the measure. So it gets kind of tricky when it comes to time intelligence calculations if you do not have a date dimensions table. So let's go ahead and look at our data. We have basic sales data, we have sales, gross sales, cost, quantity. We also have a column for the date in which the sale has occurred. In real life examples, you don't really have one record per date. So we need to create a date dimension table so we can join the date dimension table to this table in order to do all our filtering for us. So we can create a new date dimension table. We're going to click on the modeling tab and click on new table. We're going to create new table from scratch. And there's a handy function called calendar. And it takes in two dates, a start date and an end date. And this basically creates a one column table with your dates. So I'm going to make it between 2013 and 2014. So I'm going to start out with 1st of January 2013. I'm going to start with 2016 1 1, and then I'm going to go ahead and type 2013 1 1, and then 2014 . Okay, so with that, we've got our date table. And as you can see, the date table starts from the 1st of January 2013 to the end of 2014. Here, 31/12/2014. So we don't need the time for this, so we can click on the column, go up, data type, date and time. We can click on date without the time. And here we have it, just the dates. It's going to display it a little better. So by doing so, we are basically changing the way it displays it across the entire report. So if we wouldn't have done that, we would have seen the timestamp everywhere we were to throw it on the report. So with that, let's go ahead and create our bar chart. So I'm going to click on this horizontal bar chart or vertical. I don't know what is it called. I'm going to call it horizontal because I've been calling the other one vertical so far. So I'm going to pull it down a little bit. I'm going to throw this date column into our axis. And again, I'm going to throw in sales or gross sales. Let's do sales to our value. And here you can see how Power BI has very smartly picked up multiple divisions of my data. Here you can see date, year, sales, and the highlighted part because cross highlighting works here. So let's just double click on this so we can see both of these separately. Okay, so right now what I've done is I have divided this into sales by quarter. But you might see a problem. There is no comparison between 2014 and 2013. It is showing the exact same data throughout in all the quarters. Now, after a little bit of investigation, you might find out that this is happening because, let me move on to the relationship view pretty quick. Here it is. We do not have a relationship established between our date table and our financials dataset. And we need to set up that relationship in the model. So this is another drag and drop interface that allows you to create these relationships simply by taking one of the columns that you want on one side of your relationship and dragging it to the column of the other table. So we're going to take the date column and drag it to this other date column. And here you can see basically what we did is throw on one date column into another date column, and Power BI is going to create this relationship based on what relationship it detects. So we see that it has by default created a one-to-many relationship, that this fact table may have more than one record per date. So it's created to this, and as you can see from this arrow, the filter is created from the date table to the sales table. So any changes in the date table will affect the sales table or the financials table, but any changes in the financials table will not affect the date table. So there's only one direction. We can make this bidirectional, but that's usually best practice not to do so. So we will leave it just like this. Now if we move on here, we can see our data has changed and we have data for both 2013 and 2014. We actually have this double bar graph sort of a view. So now let's move on to creating measures. Now you can create a new measure by clicking on any table. Measures are agnostic of tables. They basically need somewhere to sit, but they don't necessarily need to be on a certain table. It doesn't change the way they are calculated. You can put them where you like. So I'm going to do it on the date table because there isn't much going on there. So I'm going to call this year sales. I'm just going to do a right click and click on new measures. I'm going to name it new year's sales. And this is an easy calculation. It's simply sum of gross sales. So basically this is going to calculate the sum of sales for each filter on the visual. So we can go ahead and click enter. So I'm just going to take this and drop it here. Now here you can see that this year's sales is showing the exact same value from last year, because previously we were just throwing in gross sales in the value field and it is by default. So by summing it, we can sum revenue this way, and we can sum revenue by creating a measure, this sales, and throwing it exactly the same way. But what's better about using this method of creating a measure first? So now what I'm going to do is I am going to click on this visualization, and I am going to remove sales from here, and I'm going to switch it out with, say, gross sales. And that's pretty much all of our 4 items so far. Also, what I'm going to do is I am going to go to formatting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to these fields. Finally, let's go ahead with our final chart, which is going to be a line chart. So let me go ahead and make some space for it. Okay. So let's throw in a line chart here. And we have, so this is my favorite line chart, which is the simplest line chart. It's here on the right. We have a couple of options, but I pretty much don't see the need of any of those other options like area chart and this stacked area chart in this particular dashboard. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to throw date on the axis. This is not working. So let me just drag it and put it here in the axis. And this axis basically creates something known as a date hierarchy from year, quarter, month, day. That may be what you like. Sometimes you may just want to show all the day values. So we can click on the drop down. So at this point, I want to show you a couple of ways to make predictions using this line chart. Some pretty cool stuff, features by Power BI. Now, I had already spoken about the Fields tab and the Formatting tab. The third one, is the Analytics tab. This allows for some pretty cool analytics to take place. So basically, we're going to do some additions to the visualization. For example, line charts allow you to trend lines. Just like clicking add, you can change the color. So what's interesting here for me is the Forecast tab over here. So I'm going to click on that. So I'm going to add forecast here, and 10 points here is actually 10 days. It's the same thing, but you can points in case you have a hierarchy and your scale is dynamic. So I'm actually going to forecast out, let's say, 30 days. So we have also the option to ignore a number of points here, ignore last, this option you get here. In case you have some irregular last couple of days of data, we can set a confidence interval. Here you can see by default it is 95%. 99 in case you want to be very certain. 95 is a great out of the box. This is what we use for hypotheses methods. And then we're going to go ahead and click on apply. What we can see is it's not giving a great forecast because it is automatically trying to forecast that seasonality. And seasonality is when you have, let's say, sales data that might increase or decrease depending on the time of the year, maybe the time of the month. For a lot of sales, you're going to see an increase around Christmas time or maybe around Diwali or certain holidays, depending on the products you provide. In order to do a more accurate forecast, so we're going to set up a date range. So we see only 6 months of data here. So we can create a seasonality based on 30 points, which would be a monthly seasonality. So what I did right now is I changed the color to red, and we have 95% confidence, which means the value is going to be somewhere around there. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to add a slicer, and I'm going to slice this by, let's say, our date table. So if I select this, I can go like in and out my slicer. Yeah, that's something. And I also think I am going to bring this down a little and go ahead and add a Q&A bar over here so that we can ask our data. Here there are already a few questions, which are top countries by New Year's sales, top segments by New Year's sales, products, discounts, so on and so forth. So with that, I think I am happy with the dashboard. Now I'm going to take up a little time to talk about conditional formatting. Now this is a very important issue if you want to get a point across. Colors are a very effective way to convey ideas and results. So I'm going to go ahead and click on our bar chart on the left. So we are going to select a color scale, so a larger value, or maybe you say, let's say a green color for a larger value down to red for a smaller value. So I'm going to go on the formatting tab and go down to data colors. It's a little hidden, but if you click on this ellipses in the top right, you can click on it and click on conditional formatting. And we can format based on a color scale. So I'm going to click on diverging. I think I am happy here. Click on custom. And the lowest value, I'm going to keep it pink or red, whatever this color is. The middle value in yellow and the highest value in blue. What is the value of France? A little tweaking here and there. I think we have gotten it. And right now it has created a red to blue color scale from lowest to highest. And that's how easy it is to create conditional formatting within Power BI within your visual. A couple of other options are there. You can click on rules of field values. So this is some really dynamic stuff there. We can do the same for our map and all our other graphs that we are using. Okay, with that, I think I am pretty satisfied with my dashboard. The last item I want to touch on, which shows some of Power BI's really powerful capability, is row level security. And just as a refresher, row level security is going to allow you to filter down your data automatically depending on who is looking at the report. So let's say user A is only allowed to see countries from North America, where user B is only allowed to see countries from Europe. So it's very easy to set up within Power BI. So under the modeling tab, we have something known as manage roles or view as roles. So I'm going to click on manage roles, and this is going to allow us to create these different roles. So all we have to do is click create and name this role. I'm going to call this role manager Canada. No, I don't need this, so yes, delete. So for our purposes, I am going to select only the financials table. Then I'm going to throw in some code here, some very quick code. The first thing we do is we type a column name. On the right, you can see all the columns available to you. So we have a country field. I'm going to only show this manager the data specific to Canada. So if we select country equals Canada and then click save, and then we go to view as roles, and then we click on Manager Canada and click OK. All right, we now see our data only shown in Canada's data. We only see the data that can be viewed as a manager of Canada. So we see the values that have been filtered down. We see the items on the axis have been filtered down only to show Canadian data. The map has been pre-filtered and zoomed out. You can go ahead, create another role to really nail this idea in, but I'm going to keep it as this. Next, what we are going to do is that we are going to publish this to Power BI Cloud. So firstly, what you need to do is you need to save this file. Okay, so I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to Save As, and I'm going to call it Financial Demo. Okay. Now I'm going to go to Home, and I'm going to publish this. So to publish, I have to sign into my account. Here it's going to ask me to select a destination in which I want to publish this dashboard. I'm going to click on my workspace. A workspace is basically a location where you can collaborate on reports and data sets with your peers. So I just published it to my workspace, which is my personal workspace. This won't have anyone else's access to it. It's only my portal. It's only my little area within that portal. So depending on the size of your file, this shouldn't take too long. And success. So here in my workspace, you can see all of the things that I've done on Power BI. If I go to my workspaces and I click on financial demo, which is the demo that I made today, I can see my entire dashboard right here. I can ask for top countries by New Year's sales, which are the United States of America, followed by Canada, France, Germany, so on and so forth, as you can see in the graph right here. The cross highlighting works just as well. I can click on Canada or France or the United States, so on and so forth. And that was all about Power BI dashboards. Now let's take a look at the success story of Aston Martin. Now, after 104 years of making beautiful cars, Aston Martin Lagonda is looking forward to another century with exceptional expanded model lineup. The company aims to produce more cars for a wider audience at a faster pace while keeping intact its heritage of bespoke quality. This company is firmly on track to accelerate production by using Microsoft 365 digital tools to energize employee creativity, data insights, and teamwork, pushing the boundaries of performance and style for the ultimate driving experience. Beautiful, bespoke, British, and the preferred ride of 007, one of the world's most iconic brands, Aston Martin needs no introduction. Its heritage, 104 years of visionary design and personal attention to detail defines the allure of every car. But now that Aston Martin is accelerating production, the value of its data becomes even more important. It is one of the vital assets of the car company, and they're probably going to create more data now in a year than the company has generated in the previous 100 years. And to enhance this agility, you need the tools and the processes to make good decisions using that data. Aston Martin uses Power BI dashboards to get a handle on its data. With Power BI, they are turning information into insight. The simplicity of the dashboards and the richness of the data is generating interest across the company. The goal was always to deliver cars on budget and on time. But when issues arise, employees use Power BI dashboards to zero in on a troublesome metric and solve the problem. They combine information from a multitude of sources, so when they see a red flag in a metric, they immediately know what the problem is. The sooner they see the problem, the faster they can solve it, so they can stay on track with the schedule. Martin understands that data is a cornerstone of their strategy for the future. The tools they use for employees have to deliver a sustainable return on investment and hence keep their heritage alive. This brings me to the end of this session. I hope you liked this tutorial. My name is Upasna. Thank you and have a great day.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!